Who is going to break out for the New York Jets this season? We dive in on another episode of Boy Green Daily.
Zoinks! It is unequivocally the Super Bowl for New York Jet fans.
Field Yates, baby. Field Gosh darn Yates. Let's bring him on the show.
Come on, people. Connor Rogers is joining the show. What's up, Connor? But Trevor Gosh darn Sycamore, baby, for me, personally, my favorite New York Jet of all time.
Wow, it's great to be on. What an intro that was right there.
Paul, nobody does an intro like you, man.
Paul, you give the best intro of literally any podcast that I've ever.
I'm gonna lose my gosh darn bananas. Hey, what's poppin', everybody? Paul Liston Jr., a.k.a. Boy Green. I'm the New York Jets digital reporter for Heavy.com. Welcome to Boy Green Daily, a daily New York Jets video show, also available wherever you get your friggin' podcast, people. And we've got a brilliant guest on the show today for the very first time. Long overdue, a member of the Jets X Factor Army. Let's bring him in. And he has a very intriguing article. The direct link is in our YouTube description down below. More on that in just a minute. But let's bring in on the program Brandyn Pokrass here on the show. What's up, Brandyn?
What's up? How we doing this morning?
We're doing excellent, pal. And I was taking a peek, taking a gander at one of your recent columns for Jets X Factor, and there was a couple times I went, ooh, some sort of reaction was coming from my body. So I wanted to explore in a bit more detail some of these names. And I'll tell you, the most intriguing one to me that stood out was Xavier Gibson, because I've heard a lot of hoopla from the coaching staff and others about X, Xavier Gibson. He's the guy to watch. But they've done a lot of moves this offseason that would suggest maybe they're not as high on him as it seems, like drafting a guy like Malachi Corley. When you look at some of those analytical numbers, he's played a ton in the slot. So you're like, oh, well, where does X fit into all this? But Salah's also called him, Corley, a raw route runner. So maybe that does open the door for X to make some noise early. So he appeared on your list. Do tell.
Yeah, so I think with Xavier Gibson, the interesting thing is it's not just one facet of the game, right? Where he's a wide receiver. We've seen him play wide out. And I think the first part of the equation is I think he's going to improve. We already seen this offseason that Rodgers is targeting him in OTAs. We've heard Rodgers speak highly about Xavier Gibson before. I think it's very fair to assume that he's going to develop even further as a player. And interestingly enough, obviously, Jets don't have all their guys at OTAs, but Gibson has had some reps on the outside as a receiver. So they may be looking to move him around a little bit more. Where the breakout aspect comes for me, though, is I think he can be a difference maker on special teams, because with the new rules, it's going to be much more important to have impact players on special teams. So I think whatever you get from Gibson on offense, obviously it's going to be needed as a depth piece, and I think it'll be appreciated. But I think the real breakout comes from him on special teams. I think you're going to see him rip off 2, 3, maybe even 4 big time return plays, because we've seen he has potential for it. And having another year under his belt, being even more familiar with the NFL style, with the NFL game, and with all these teams trying to adjust on the fly to the new return rules, I think those two aspects combined is why I think Gibson could be a breakout candidate. Obviously, still has to capitalize on it, still has to produce, but I think he's one of the more interesting guys to watch over the course of the summer and throughout this 2024 season.
How many OTA practices have you been to so far, Brandyn?
Just the one Thursday.
Okay. I'm curious, during that OTA practice, was there any special teams reps? Because to be honest, this kickoff rule you're talking about, it's all in theory right now for us fans. We haven't seen it. We have, like, the Madden video game has come out. We haven't tested out, run it out, and messed around with it. So we, for the most part, speaking in a general sense, we haven't seen what it looks like. Was there any of those special teams reps where you even got a gander at it yet?
No, it was a lot of punt return stuff. And honestly, I don't think you're going to see it until training camp
Okay.
because maybe you'll see like the rudimentary install of what they want to try to accomplish on it. Maybe you'll see the first inkling of what their specific return plan is going to look like. But because of the nature of that play with how much contact there is and how different it is compared to what it's been in the past few years, I feel like you're not going to get the most out of that until you're able to actually have contact and you're actually able to fully simulate what that is. Because if you're not going full speed with that type of play, what's the point? At least in my opinion.
Okay, interesting. So I'm kind of curious, do you have a gut feeling on what the right returner will be? I've been, kind of tuning into press conferences for around the NFL with different teams and different reporters asking that similar type question. I haven't really gotten a good answer on it so far. And some people have speculated that some of the game's biggest stars could make appearances there because of the new rules. We've heard things in-house like Breece Halls and things of that nature. But do you have a sense of the type of returner that teams are going to seek? Again, we'll probably get a better scope once we actually see it in action to see what is preferred. But is it just an elite Olympic sprinter? Is it someone that's got some wiggle that can make moves? Is it just kind of getting past that initial line and taking it to the house? Like, what is it in your prognostication here that makes sense as the proper fit?
I feel like what you're going to see first is like a combination of things, right? So there might be a team that tries like you said, the sprinter type, the person that is the all-world athlete and just you want to have the ball in their hands and try to let them have something happen. I think you're going to see some teams try the more downhill style player where it's going to take a lot to bring them down. It's going to take a lot to basically prevent them from gaining 10, 15, 20 yards in the open field after contact. And I think you'll see some guys in the middle. Personally, I think with the Jets, if you look at what their main return guys would be, I think you're leaning more towards the explosive playmaker, the shifty playmaker, whether it is Xavier Gibson, whether it is Izzy Abanikanda, who has some special teams experience dating back to college, whether it is a guy like Breece Hall. I think the Jets, at least, are going to be looking to utilize that playmaker role and try to see what they can do and then build from there, right? If the Gibson role doesn't work right off the bat, how do you switch it if, let's say, other teams in the league are having success by putting their stars back there? And if you are having success, maybe other teams pivot towards what the Jets are doing and put a more explosive, shifty playmaker back there.
Interesting. Let's go to one of those players we're just talking about, Breece Hall. That's another appearance on the list. Again, the full link is down below in the YouTube description. Feel free to click it and read the full piece for yourself. It's a good gander, if I do say so myself. But Breece Hall, breakout list. Whoa, what is the connective tissue here? A lot of people will be like, huh? Ooh, what? Huh? What's going on there? What do you mean, Breece Hall breakout?
Yeah, because on the surface, if you see Breece Hall on a breakout list, you're probably confused considering the type of season he had last year.
Yeah.
Arguably should have been the comeback player of the year. One of the best running back seasons we've seen from a Jets player in a while. My thinking with that is Hall did that with arguably the worst quarterback situation in football. He did that with a severe lack of weapons around him. You're getting Aaron Rodgers back. You're getting an offensive line that, and obviously health permitting, should be one of the better, most improved at least in the league, and one of the better ones in the league. You add in Mike Williams. You add in Malachi Corley. You have Garrett Wilson improving every single year. You have Tyler Conklin. You have Gibson, who, if he takes a step forward, that's yet another guy. Breece Hall isn't going to have to do everything by himself. And I think by virtue of him not basically having to be the sole reason the Jets have offense, he's going to have lanes to run. He's not going to see as many stacked boxes. He's going to have more room to operate in the passing game. And with the Jets operating towards a more downhill style approach, considering some of the signings they've had, considering the drafting of Braylon Allen and Isaiah Davis, I think it's really feasible that you see Breece Hall have an insane season. And I think there's a chance that he gets to that 2,000 all-purpose yard season.
Wow.
I think there's definitely a chance.
Okay, I like it. I like the cut of your jib, pal. Let's get some more of that action going on. As far as I'm concerned, now I'm curious. So Breece Hall last season had the second most prolific receiving season by a Jets running back / fullback in history. Was that by virtue of the quarterback play being so terrible he got a lot of dump offs and that was a unique season? Or is that something you believe this Jets offensive coaching staff can unlock on top of getting a lot more higher quality rushing attempts? Because again, he finishes with 994 yards rushing, which is fine. He appeared in all 17 games after coming off a torn ACL. But is there something left to be untapped there, or is that more so a product of the situation last season in your mind?
I think it's a combination, right? Because when you're trotting out the likes of Zach Wilson, when you're trotting out the likes of Trevor Siemian,
Sure,
they're not as prolific of downfield passers as Aaron Rodgers. So you might say, okay, Breece might not have as many check down opportunities with Aaron Rodgers back there because he's going to be looking for Garrett Wilson and Tyler Conklin and Mike Williams, et cetera, et cetera. But on the other hand, we've seen how Breece Hall can operate as a receiver, split out wide. It's something that, I mean, if you follow the team, the Jets should have been doing that from the get-go. It's something that I think is still yet to be untapped even more with him as a player. So, yes, he might not be the check down merchant that he was at times, getting 8 targets as just a screen type player, but you could see him execute more wheel routes, more slants, more plays where he is lined up as yet another playmaker for this team. And I think you could see him maybe not match, but get really, really close to his receiving output as a player this season.
What's your expectation for the running back split? So they add a bunch of young bucks, got Braylon Allen, you got Isaiah Davis, Israel Benicanda still back there as well. What's the split? Is Braylon Allen the new goal line short yardage back based on his style? Or is he, as some of the coaches have suggested, a closer of sorts? Jets are hoping they're playing more leads. It's fourth quarter. Instead of running Breece Hall into the ground, they're running in one of these young bucks like Braylon Allen into the ground? Or how do you prognosticate it?
It's honestly one of the main things I'm watching throughout the rest of the summer because, as I mentioned, it seems like the Jets are shifting towards a different style in terms of running backs they want to have. Davis and Allen are both more of that bruising downhill type player. I definitely think Allen's going to be the RB2 because he looks really good in the receiving game from what I personally expected. He still has that downhill approach. He looks very decisive in terms of his running style. And Davis has shown some wiggle and shiftiness and short area burst as well. I think where Izzy fits in, and that's really the one I'm keeping the eye on, it's really behind Breece and Braylon Allen. What does the Davis-Izzy battle look like? How does special teams play into basically who makes the roster, right? Is Davis overtake him because he can play more than just one type of special teams? He can be on all of them. Does Izzy overtake Davis because he rips off a giant punt return or kick return in the preseason and the team looks at him and be like, well, we need this type of athlete on the roster? It's going to be very interesting to see how it plays out. And even more so than that, can Izzy, who it seems like is still looking to pick up the playbook and still looking to gain that decisiveness as a runner that you need at the NFL level, does he pick that up once pads are all good to go at the end of the summer during training camp, right? Does he push to be that RB2 again and make this a really, really fun competition between 3 really young running backs and 3 really talented running backs? It's something that you're not going to have the full answer to until the real contact actually starts, because you can tell a lot from a quarterback operating in the summer. You can tell how their progressions and decision-making is at a base level, but you're not going to know for sure until they get in the game action. The same goes for offensive line. The same goes for defensive line. Same goes for cornerbacks. Running back, I feel like, is more than almost any of those positions, because it's one thing to pick a hole and dart through it when you're in shorts and t-shirts in the summer. It's a completely different story when you're on the field and you're picking that hole and trying to burst through it, and there's 300-pound defensive linemen, 350-pound defensive linemen trying to rip your head off as you're doing stuff. How do you break those tackles? How do you determine what holes you're going to go to? How does your athleticism stack up against the rest of those players? That can't be answered until you're actually on the field in practice. And I feel like no matter what you see now, and there has been a lot of promise from these guys, you're not going to know for sure until the summer, or at least the end of the summer.
Yeah, that's very fair. Again, we're speaking with Brandyn Pokrass here on the program from JetsXFactor.com. Brandyn, this is a fresh relationship. This is a first time on the show. Trust and honesty is very important. Would you agree?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, well, I need your honesty here. We just lay it straight. There's not hundreds of people watching right now that could potentially be liking videos and hitting subscribe. Wink. But with that being said, it's me and you here. Is Elijah Vera-Tucker going to be healthy in 2024? Be honest with me. Lay it on the line. Just put the lumber down on the yard here.
I want to say yes, right?
Want to say yes. Okay.
I want to say yes because the tearing a pectoral and tearing an Achilles, it seems like two flukish injuries. Obviously, there's significant injuries and they could affect how AVT is as a player moving forward, but they're also not the type of injuries that linger and you're out games at a time. It's kind of that one shot and you're done for the year. At the same time, though, the other thought process is, well, do those two injuries cause him to miss those little games that those quote unquote injury prone linemen have displayed in the past, where they're playing 12, 13 games, but they're missing a week here, a week there with different stuff. I personally think he is going to be able to stay on the field. I think that we are going to see that full type season from AVT, because this wasn't a guy that was injury prone in college. This wasn't a guy that was missing all these games as he was coming up through the college ranks and into the NFL. He kind of got hit with these two really significant injuries, and I want to stress this, they were really significant, but it's not like it was something lingering, and then he was out for the year. It was that one kill shot, and he was done. I don't think you have that this year. I think the fact that the Jets added depth and they're not going to need to move him around all over the place is going to help him a lot. And I think you're going to see the best version of AVT this season.
I've got another question on AVT. Elijah Tucker, again, honesty, truth is important. It's the foundation of any good relationship, as far as I'm concerned, Brandyn. And it's this. Are the Jets going to be men/women of their words? They said that they believe some of the injury issues you pointed to with the torn tricep and the blown Achilles, that they believe that was a contributor in some way because of the constant shifting of positions, going from guard to tackle to guard, and all over the gosh darn place. And they said that they want to keep him at one position. Just kind of like you said, I want to say that he's going to be healthy. I want to say he's staying at right guard. But I want to ask you if you honestly believe that is true, because it's great on paper right now to say, okay, Tyron Smith left tackle, okay, phenomenal. John Simpson left guard, okay, great. Tippmann center, AVT right guard, boom, Morgan Mose right tackle, okay, this is spectacular. But when the first injury hits, they're like, boy, AVT can jump over to this or jump over to that. Do you believe they're going to avoid pressing the big, fat, juicy red button in the middle of the room the first opportunity they get? Again, I want to reiterate that trust and honesty is key, Brandyn.
I don't think they move him unless they're hit with catastrophic injuries like they were last year, right?
Okay.
Because you have Olu Fashanu behind Tyron Smith now. So now left tackle isn't a pressing, if we lose the guy, we have to move AVT there. At right tackle, no matter what he's shown so far, we've heard that the Jets are high on Carter Warren. If Morgan Moses, for whatever reason, went down, they would likely give Warren a shot there first. So unless you're legitimately losing 4 tackles again in a single season, unless your offensive line is getting completely devastated, I don't think they're going to be bouncing him around, because what's the biggest thing this offensive line has been missing the past few years? Cohesion and actually playing together as a unit. Moving AVT around and moving him around or off a position that he's already playing at the start of the season. Now you're hurting 2 positions instead of 1. Now you're hurting not only your tackle position, because the tackle position's hurt and you're trying to slide in emergency and then replace it, but how's that backup guard looking? How does he mesh with whatever tackle? Because at that point, who knows what side AVT's playing on? How does he mesh with the rest of that line? So I think it's only it's basically, you mentioned the red button. I think it's a double red button in the sense of you have to break the glass and then break the glass again in order for that scenario to happen.
I see. Well, fingers crossed. We can only hope that ends up being the case, that no button ends up being pressed in the making of the New York Jets 2024 season. Again, we're speaking with Brandyn Pokrass here on the program from JetsXFactor.com. And I don't know where you stand on this. I don't know how divisive this topic is, but I've seen Jet fans on both sides of the fence. Are you a Tony Adams guy or no?
I'm a Tony Adams pseudo believer in the sense of I think I think he can take another step forward, but I'm not one of these people where I don't think it's a guarantee. Obviously, you need to see him perform on the field. You need to see him take another step forward, but it's undeniable that he showed flashes last season. He forced some turnovers. He looked better down the stretch as a player. And I think the significant part that needs to be talked about in regard to Adams is he has another year with the defense under his belt. He has another year of developing as an NFL player. We see this all the time where guys get their first taste of starting action and they're that much better in the next season. I think it's very feasible that you see Tony Adams take that next step. And that's why I listed him as a potential breakout candidate, because I think with that time and that development and that understanding of the scheme, you have the possibility for one of your main safeties to take that step forward. On the other hand, though, I don't think the Jets should just be content with Adams. I think they should push him. I think, as they've talked about, it should be an open competition to see who the best players at the position are. And if Adams isn't as good as Chuck Clark and Jalen Key and maybe Isaiah Oliver, who was recently moved to safety, then it's a completely different story. Then he's a depth option. He's a guy that can come off the bench for you. But I think it's a matter of you have to see what you have in him. You have to see what development and strides he took forward. You gave him the job last year. You let him play the full season. Let's see what it looks like from year 1 starting to year 2 in training camp and so on and so forth.
I'm going to be honest, Brandyn, you've just completely disrespected my house, because when you were just talking about the safety position, you left a guy off the list. My boy, Ashton "Gosh darn Davis," baby.
Of course, Ashton Davis. Yes.
Yeah, it's okay. Like I said, I don't forgive you, because that's my boy from Cal. I love the pick. I wanted the Jets to take him back in that draft. They took him, and I was giddy like a schoolgirl. I was like, oh, phenomenal. This is great. He's got all the traits. All you just got to do is mold this piece of clay. And again, it hasn't fully blossomed, but there's been some peaks that have been pretty interesting. So maybe you can make up for that blatant disrespect with the answer to this question. Who are the starting 2 safeties for the New York Jets week 1 against the San Francisco 49ers?
I do think it's Chuck Clark and Tony Adams, but I think Ashton Davis is a very key rotational piece. He was a very key rotational piece last season, and I don't think that changes. They brought him back for a reason.
Hey, by the way, I see this question in here, and we're about to open up the phone lines here in a moment. But I hear Dano says, "I miss Brandon's Naruto poster." Did you have a Naruto poster
It's
that used
it.
to be in your background?
It's in the back. I think my microphone's blocking at the moment. If I move it, it's yeah, it's still back
Oh,
there.
okay.
If
All
you
right,
can
that's
see
good to
it.
know because I never talk about this, but I am a big Naruto guy sitting. It's off camera, so I can't shift it over there. But I have volumes 1 through what is that? 48 right there, and then Naruto Shinobi. He's up there, up above my door, and people walk in, they're like, "What the hell?" And yeah, so Naruto. Okay, good. I just saw that comment. Was like, "Oh, is he a Naruto guy?" Okay,
I
we'll have
am.
to
I am. Yes.
Okay, I'll have to bring that up on the next episode, I guess. All right, let's park that baby over there for a moment. All right, there's one more breakout guy that I'm kind of curious about. So first off, let me, I guess, before I get to my question for that, was there any honorable mentions for you that didn't make the list but were in your consideration as you were putting this column together?
You see, I was thinking of putting Malachi Corley on there, but that would just be his first season and his
Yeah, right.
start
I
because
agree with that. Yeah.
because he's a rookie. I'm really, really excited to see what he does with the offense. I think he's the type of player where, and we see this all the time with rookie wideouts.
Hmm.
I don't think he has the fastest start to the season, but I think by week 8, week 9, all of a sudden you're looking up and it's like, oh, Malachi Corley has 400 yards and 3 touchdowns in his last 3 games. And
Hmm.
he's making an instant impact. And the Jets have won their last 3 because now they have Garrett and they have Corley and they have Breece and everything's meshing together because it's not always right off the bat that you see offenses specifically mesh. It's a lot of, okay, the defenses for a lot of the best teams start strong. And then the offense, once you get to that midpoint of the season, week 7, 8, 9, then everything picks up. I think that's when you see that from Corley. And then outside of that, I mean, another one I was thinking of
Okay.
where it's like, well, that's not really a breakout. Garrett Wilson. I think you see the big Garrett Wilson season. Shocker, right? Aaron Rodgers back. Garrett Wilson got a big year, but I think you see a 1,300, 1,400 yard type season.
Mm,
I think he approaches double-digit touchdowns.
okay.
Look, they're working so hard, as in Rodgers and Wilson, to establish that connection.
Hmm.
I think you're going to see it pay dividends like you were seeing it pay dividends in last year's preseason.
Yeah, I think he's going to get. We just did on my my afternoon show yesterday that I do every Tuesday, Thursday. We did like prognostication for who the Jets' touchdown leaders would be, and I didn't give the full bore, but I think that Garrett Wilson is going to have a Brandon Marshall-ish kind of season. That's high praise. It's the greatest single season we've ever seen from a Jets receiver. He's the leader in receptions, yards, and he's tied for the single season lead all time in touchdowns. So like. I think Aaron Rodgers is going to feed that man. He's going to be like, "I'm so sorry for last year, touchdown. I'm so sorry," and he's just going to continue to make it up throughout the entire shish kebab, which I'm pretty interested in. And of course, I think this is perhaps one of the first names people probably think of. If I ask a random fan in the streets, "Hey, who do you think is going to break out this year?" A name I hear all the time is Will McDonald, and it's a hope. Please, please breakout man. I want that 15th overall pick to be spicy. What is Will McDonald's ceiling in 2024, considering the scheme, another year in the system, and the talent that's around him? How good can Will McDonald be this upcoming year?
I think you see a very similar season, but with possibly more sack production to Jermaine Johnson's season that he had last
They had
season,
like
right?
6.5
Because
last year or something like that.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think you're looking at possibly the 7, 8 range for McDonald. He's going to get more snaps. He's going to get more opportunities, but it's still going to be that rotation heavy because you still have Jermaine, who I think is going to take another step forward. You have Hassan Reddick. You have Quinnen. You have the depth of this defensive line that makes them so good. And I think because of the type of guys that the Jets have on this defensive line, McDonald is going to have that quote unquote breakout. I'm not going to come out here and say, oh, he's going to have 12, 13 sacks because as incredible as that would be, considering where he was last year, that would be – I feel like that would be way too wishful. But to say that McDonald has 8, maybe 9 sacks and takes that step so he can have an even better year 3 and possibly establish himself as one of the better pure pass rushers on the Jets, I don't think that's unrealistic. I think it's a very similar path because the Jets have talked about it very similar to what Jermaine Johnson went through.
Okay, well, again, we can only hope for Will McDonald having some pop in the game. There's no question. All right, Brandon, I will give you the opportunity to exit stage left. I don't know what your schedule is, but you can either leave or if you have time for a few callers, you let me know.
Yeah, I'll stay on for a few callers.
Okay, here we go. All right, the phone lines are now open, everybody. Feel free to jump in. That is the pinned comment on YouTube. You can feel free to hop on, ask Brandon a question. He guaranteed he has an answer to any question you have on any subject matter. There's no question about it, so feel free. Again, if you're watching on Heavy on Jets or on Twitter at BoyGreen25, just make sure you hop on over to youtube.com/BoyGreen25 and make sure you're in a relatively quiet place. Hop on camera, we'll bring on. Okay, wow, we got a lot of callers in here. Excellent. All right, let's go to Tim from Fishland. All right, what's up, Tim?
Hey, Paul.
What's
How
up,
you
buddy?
been, my man?
Good.
One player I like to see, which is actually from my high school. He's a lot younger than me, but he went to my high school.
Okay.
Breakout is Jamie Sherwood.
Oh, nice.
Because C.J. Mosley's getting older in age, and if you looked against that Cleveland game, they were destroying him with the Joker.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and pass coverage. So that's one liability. Yeah, don't get me wrong, he's a great leader, but I believe that there might be a time where he might need to come down on passing situations, come out.
Okay, Jamie and Sherwood. What do you make of that, Brandon?
I think Sherwood is a really interesting one because unlike the defensive line front, the Jets don't really rotate the linebackers as much. Now, Sherwood, I think, is going to be that main guy right behind Quincy and Mosley. And we saw signs of him stepping forward last year. He made some really good plays. He looked improved from where he was as a rookie. I don't think it's unrealistic that he takes yet another step forward. My biggest thing is, how much is he actually going to be on the field? Now, if something happens to Mosley where he gets banged up a little bit, I do think you see Sherwood step up and play really well in his absence. I just wonder with those two main guys, as Mosley being the defensive captain and the centerpiece and Quincy Williams being the rocket that's firing all over the field, how much do you see Sherwood? But I definitely think it's a distinct possibility that you see him step up even further.
The problem is, I'll just say real quick, Tim, the problem is he would have broke out earlier if you weren't ahead of him on the depth chart in high school. If you would have just slid over a little, let the man get
Well, no, he's a lot younger than me. He's a lot younger than me. I'm like 35, man. He's like 28. I just remember, I know a lot of guys I work with that play with him at Jensen Beach High School.
Oh, that's
so
cool.
I live in just north of Palm Beach, Florida.
Oh, nice.
So that's where I know him from. And another person that I'm interested in is, I wonder if we would have the money. I mean, did we sign all of our draft picks? Do you have any idea what we're underneath the cap is?
Yeah, the only one that isn't signed yet, unless Brandon has it before I do and I missed it, Corley is the only one that is not signed of the draft class so far. So we still have some shekels. We still have a couple of shekels left in the cap space if they're going to make.
How much cap space do we have? That's the question.
I think the last time I checked was like $8 million and change, but I'll get that updated number right now. If
they can, they need to go after Justin Simmons, which is another Martin County boy.
Ooh, okay, all right. Now let me see what I have here on Jets. Yeah, it's $6.4 million right now, so there's a little bit of wiggle room there, plus the Corley deal whenever that comes through. So yeah, there's.
1 year deal with Justin Simmons, and he even said he wanted to play with a contender.
Yeah.
All right, I just don't see. You know what I mean? I'd make a couple calls and see if I can get him in, I'll give you an incentive latent contract, something like that. And then I like Gibson. I saw him last year when he got the ball in his hand and it was on time. He's got some quickness to him. He kind of reminds me a little bit of a young Cobb,
Ooh, okay. Yeah, sign me up, baby. I'd love a little bit of that action. I love Tim from Fishland GM. You're hired, pal.
Yeah. It's a lot better than what I do in this damn heat.
Thanks, pal, for calling in.
No problem.
There he is. Tim from Fishland jumping in. All right, let's go to the waving man himself, Bobby Midnight, joining us here on the show.
Hey, how you doing, Brandon?
Whoa.
How are you?
Paul, how you doing?
God bless. I'm doing spectacular. Good to see you,
Did I
Bobby.
tell you something?
Sure.
I hope you don't get mad. I got my own channel now.
What? You have your own channel? What's
I had my
what's
own
the channel?
YouTube channel before, a long time ago.
Oh,
Now
okay.
I started it yesterday.
Okay. What are you going to talk about?
Oh, yeah. We'll talk about it right now.
No. I mean on your channel. What are you gonna?
What's
the content?
I
Yeah.
let everybody come in and talk whatever they want. I was on for 2 hours yesterday, and then like 50 minutes. I had
Cool.
two
So a
shows.
talk show. Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, anything you want to talk about. Then I do some trivia.
Oh, trivia. Oh,
And
I love trivia.
I like
I'm a big trivia
StreamYard.
guy.
I like StreamYard better than OBS. Though.
Yeah, StreamYard's great. That's what I'm using right now. We got. I can see it's 450 people in the room. This is great.
It's a lot easier to use StreamYard than OBS. Ugh.
Yeah. It's very simple. I said, "Hey, Brandon, here's the link." Boop. He's like, "Cool,"
Oh,
and then he
yeah,
clicked
me
it, and
too.
now he's
That
here.
was easy. Brandon,
Yeah.
what do you think about that running back we got? Brandon, what's his name? Allen?
Braylon Allen?
Yeah, how you like him?
Yeah, I think he's going to end up being the RB2. That's something that, I feel like some people might disagree on. I think some people are still high on Izzy. And while I think Izzy is definitely a really good talent, I think he has all-class speed, and he could be a pretty good player at the next level. I just think Allen's a better overall player. I really love the run style he has. I mean, if you watched him at his early days in Wisconsin, he was one of the coolest running backs in college football to watch, whether it was just a look of him as a player, his downhill running style, the fact that he never went down on the first hit. That's something I feel like outside of Breece Hall, the Jets have been lacking in their running back room for a very long time. Lacking that pure power runner that is that one cut, hits the hole, gets 4 or 5 yards on almost every single play. It's something
it
that
reminded me of Ron Dane on the Giants. Remember Ron Dane, or you're too young?
I think I'm way too young for that.
Oh, yeah.
But
I'm almost 56 now.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
But I think Allen, even beyond that too, he's going to be an asset on third downs, whether it's with soft hands or the really good pass blocking that he's shown. So I'm pretty high on him. I think he's going to be a really fun asset for this team.
Good, me too. I agree. Okay, thanks, Paul, having me on.
Yeah,
thanks
you
for
bet.
letting me explain my channel.
Yeah.
I hope you didn't get mad at me.
No, not mad. Hey, more the merrier as far as I'm concerned.
I hope you can sign up to subscribe to my channel too.
Yeah, what's your channel called, Bobby? What's the name?
Bobby. You could try Bobby Woodruff, WOODRUFF, or Bobby Midnight. Try both of them.
And Bobby, what was the other one? Bobby, what?
Midnight and Woodruff.
So one of those two might take me to your channel, is what you're saying?
Yeah, you'll see it.
Okay. All right. I'll take your word for it. All right. Thank you, Bobby. Okay. And feel free, Brandon, at any point when you're ready to skip out, because we have 1,000 callers here. So you can skip it at any point that you're ready. But wow. So Bobby has his own channel. That should be interesting. All right. Let's go to the next one here. We got Johnny Boy here on the show. What's up, Johnny?
Hey, what up, boy Green?
Okay.
Brandyn.
Let the locks flow. Nice.
Yeah, man. Brandon's brain, baby. Brandon's brain.
Yes, sir.
Hey. Brandon, first and foremost, man, I saw you up there on OTAs, so I appreciate the news you were bringing from out there, man. But I did want to ask you a couple questions in that, if you could elaborate more in the Coach Saleh with the offense. Like, when you saw him out there, what was he really doing? And then the other thing is with Aaron Rodgers. Like, I'm more concerned in the regards of his lateral movement, his cutting, right, with that new ACL that he has or whatnot. I mean, did you see any of that with him on the field? And if so, how did he look?
Yeah, so with the Saleh thing, I think you're finally seeing him be that CEO and monitoring every aspect of the team, right? Where he had that title. He's always been the head coach, but it feels like in recent years, he was more focused on the defense. He was more focused on monitoring that side of the ball and not really being as involved with the offense. Obviously, he still had eyes on it, but he didn't really get his hands dirty in there. When I was at the practice, he was talking to Garrett Wilson extensively. He was talking to Aaron Rodgers extensively. He was really emphasizing something. And then you see during practice, Rodgers and Wilson consistently were trying to link up with each other. They were consistently trying different things. And every pass wasn't executed, but it seemed like he was emphasizing the point of those two working together. So it's a much more hands-on approach from Saleh in the sense of he's really involved with all aspects on the team. He is really focused on that side of the ball too now. And then when it comes to Rodgers, he looks just about full go, but I don't think he's pushing himself to that point where he's going to fully test that Achilles and be like, all right, how good can I move laterally in OTAs? Because if you think about it, very long summer ahead. No need to go 110% right now. You can do enough to test, okay, how do I feel doing this? How do I feel doing that? But you don't want to overdo it, potentially tweak something. And now you're fighting and clawing to get back to where you were before training camp even gets here. So that's where I fall with that.
Again, to your point, it's a very long summer. I'm curious to see the NFL's decision. I know some things are floating about potentially removing OTAs and having a ramp up here. There's a lot of interesting factoid that's floating out there in the universe on what could change with the NFL offseason. That should be interesting. But man, I'm ready for the season. That's going to be a lot of fun. But I also enjoy the process of us doing, or Saleh's set to speak in a couple hours here. So we'll get some more intel and info. I believe there's another media open practice today, which should be pretty interesting as well. Okay, we'll keep going here. And like I said, Brandon, whenever you're ready to skip out, feel free, or we continue to appreciate your presence here as far as virtually as I can tell. Okay, we've got NY Jets FL here now on the show. What's up, pal?
Good morning, sir. Brandon, excellent analysis and overview of the Jets, by the way. Very knowledgeable. I think you're going to see a lot of potential breakout candidates in the defense because I think Saleh was basically hamstrung by Zach Wilson. The whole team was, especially the defense. I mean, the margin of error of playing with a guy like that on the defense, especially, knowing that you have to play perfectly every single play in order to have a chance to win. We're not going to even be close to that, So I could see players like Sauce Gardner, 5 picks. I could see Ashton Davis. I think Ashton Davis has the potential to be a fringe. He could be a fringe starter, potentially a starter, more than a depth piece. I think that kind of guy can make a lot of noise because we'll be playing with leads potentially. And, that's basically what I got. I just don't, we couldn't run a conventional team last year. That's basically my point.
Yeah, and I think you're right. NY Jets FL. I think you're right. The Jets could not. Everyone was hamstrung by the Zach Wilson thing, and they couldn't do anything about it. Now we're going to see a legitimate team. Let's test. Let's have Robert Saleh here with a legitimate quarterback. Let's see, how we can properly evaluate him with that, and plus the other weapons and stuff on the team. Brandon, I want to thank you so much for joining us here on the show, popping your Boy Green Daily cherry, and maybe many future opportunities to come on the show. But we appreciate you, pal.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on. Can't wait to do it again.
All right, and quick plug, where can everyone find your stuff?
Yeah, so I'm on Twitter at the account down there at BPOC24, and then all my stuff on Jets X Factor, also doing some writing stuff for the league winner. So make sure to check that out.
All right, beautiful. Brandon, thanks, pal, and enjoy the rest of your day.
You too. Have a great one.
All right, there he is, Brandon, making his debut on the program. Spectacular. Good stuff. All right, I'll finish off here with a few more callers here, and it should be interesting because we got our boy Ricky New York gracing us with his presence. Which, by the way, before I do, someone made a special request. That was Lee. Lee Van says, "Put Ricky on next, Boy Green. I have to go to work soon." So, well, personal request. We take it. I'm like a DJ at your local radio station. I play your favorite tracks. Ricky New York is people's favorite track. Let's bring him in. Ricky, what's up, buddy?
Hey, how you doing, Paul?
Excellent.
Wow, the pressure's on me now. Apologies in advance, Lee. I don't really have a crazy take today. I was just kind of got in and caught the very end of Brandon, which I'm actually calling from the town of Brandon right now.
Okay. Let Brandon know we said hello.
Absolutely. And, I heard Will McDonald ceiling. I can answer that question. Will McDonald ceiling the fate of every opposing quarterback we face? So there you go.
I love that.
I also heard him say, I'm high on a whole bunch of times, and followed by Izzy. Izzy's usually the question that people ask about me when they're talking about being high on something. At any rate, I don't know if you ever got my email or not, Paul, because
I do not. I don't think I see it in here, so I have to check my spam or something, or maybe it automatically went in some other folder or something. So yeah,
I capitalized the first letter of each word, like you would write your name. And I didn't think to ask you if it should be all lowercase or.
Oh, does that affect it? I'm not sure. Actually, we'll do this live right now on the show. Let me double check my spam here. All right, let me see if I could pull this up live on the show. I'm sure this is entertaining podcasting that's happening right now. Let me see. What's your email, Ricky?
RickyNewYork@yahoo.com.
Okay, that's very specific and should be hard to miss as I am looking through here. Wow, where the hell? When did you send this, Ricky? Do you have any idea? Oh, here it is. Oh, wow. Nice. Okay, yeah, it was in the spam. Oh, this thing was buried. Oh, Jesus. Oh, no wonder I'm getting all these NFL emails. You're in between NFL announces league-wide expansion and a Gwen Stefani email. Okay, I don't think that's a real Gwen Stefani. A quick question. Oh, here it is. Why is this message in spam? Oh, wow. Report not spam. Okay, perfect. Now that's going into my main email box. All right, finally. Okay, we figured out that hoopla. Excellent.
Okay.
So now future emails are going straight to my email now. It won't go in this mysterious hidden folder. All right, excellent.
Hey, you know what? I'm hanging out with Gwen Stefani in the spam folder. I like
apparently, yeah, not too shabby. Not too shabby. The water's warm. Enjoy it. Nice.
Yeah, I could certainly do worse. At any rate, man, now I completely lost my train of thought. That's
all right. We all do. We all lose it. That's all right. And now that's through it.
It's been a long night. You know what? I'm going to go ahead and I'll take that as the cue that this phone call has kind of gone off the rails and it's probably time for me to exit and make way for some other callers.
That's fair. Real quick, though, Jeffrey asked, what's your cat's name that just appeared on camera?
Oh, Mercy. And he has none when I'm trying to be on camera.
Always a seeker of the camera. I can't blame. I can't blame the cat for that. That's beautiful. I'm inspired. Well, Ricky, I finally got that email now, so now all future emails will go straight to the primary. Excellent. And I can't miss things anymore. So appreciate it, pal. Thank you.
Okay, right on, Paul. Have a good day.
All right, you too. Ricky New York joining us here on the show. So, yeah, if you guys ever have interesting Jets articles, which I think was Ricky's thing, I'll have to read the email after. But if you guys have interesting things or anything, I also think it's in my YouTube description somewhere is my email, but it is Paul, ESDENJR @gmail.com. If you guys ever want to send me an interesting story or interesting whatever that comes across your docket, feel free to send it my way. And love the Mercy name for the cat. That's beautiful. All right, to the 500 people in the room, thanks thanks everybody for joining us. Make sure you like the video, hit subscribe down below. We've got some other fun guests joining us this week, so stay tuned. And plus, of course, like I said, we got Salah coming up in a couple of hours here, and we should get an update from him on several topics, plus the media OTA. So I'll try to see if we could get some other Jets insiders on the show this week. Thanks, everybody, for the support. Keep it rolling, and we'll see you next time here on the channel tomorrow morning at 7:30. Take care. Peace.